The Yankees obviously started the year very poorly, Thomas. Last in the AL through 2 weeks. They're in a weird stretch right now. 5-3 in their last 8, looking to get to 6-3 in their last 9. So that's pretty encouraging. But even in this kind of stretch, they've had games where they haven't hit. The pitching's come along a little bit. I just want to start early on, Thomas. What have kind of been your thoughts on possibly the Yankees turning the corner here and starting to win some ball games?
You know what? Look, everyone in baseball, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Let's get that out of the way. Okay. The Washington Nationals were terrible. I wouldn't say terrible. They were pretty average to the first half of 2019, and then they just win the World Series out of nowhere. So I just wanted to point that out. But I think this is a case of the baseball butterflies. This is a team that went through a pretty hefty makeover, I'd say, this past offseason, signing, I don't know, like 7 or 8 new faces. Corey Kluber, Jameson Taillon among them. So the pitching has been porous to start. That's definitely been something that has been a point of emphasis the last couple of seasons. Obviously, no Luis Severino, and that is huge for the Yankees because he is a really dominant 1B in my mind to Garrett Cole's 1A. No, so not having him there is obviously not helping them. But Kluber and Taillon, now we did have a good outing last night that we saw from Kluber. He was sort of missing on his location with his breaking balls. He's lost a little bit of command in my eyes, but he was still effective. Now, granted, it is against the Orioles, so I'm not going to absolutely say, oh my God, Corey Kluber's back to his Cy Young days. No, let's calm down. The pitching has still been lackluster. There are still a couple errors. Taillon hasn't been very good. He's got a 6.23 ERA to start the year, so not exactly the start you were hoping for from the both of them. Domingo Germán, up until tonight, and his last start, he had 2 starts, and then he gets sent down to the alternate site. And he just did not look good in any of them. Could have been nerves, could have been just rust from not playing all that time in 2020 with his suspension. And Jordan Montgomery is another player that a pitcher we've dubbed as sort of the help for Garrett Cole. And he's come out rusty. He has a 4.57 ERA right now. And Garrett Cole is the only guy with a sub-2. So that kind of tells you all you need to know about the starting pitching, at least. They pulled Davy Garcia up. He got whacked around by the Orioles the other day. Michael King, who has been their long relief guy, 9 total innings of work. He's got a 0 ERA. He's been really good, but they sent him down. They brought him back up, and he's been all over the place. Lucas Litke, who Ryan knows this very well, I touted as the next effective Yankees bullpen pitcher, who has been horrible to start the year. He has a +7 ERA. And Ryan made fun of me for that, and rightfully so. So I will accept defeat. But the Yankees have had a really good bullpen other than him and Nick Nelson. Darren O'Day has been very good. I like the idea of bringing him in. Jonathan Loáisiga has become an absolute monster on the mound, throwing absolutely filthy stuff to batters. He's got a sub-1.4 ERA right now. So the bullpen's been fine. The starting pitching is blah. Okay, we can just say blah. That's the word we'll use. But the batting has been, my God, the start to this offense has been atrocious. Gleyber Torres, he was batting like 120 to start the year. And then he had a conversation with Aaron Boone behind closed doors about his effort, because that came up in a press conference because he didn't run down hard all the way to first base on a ground ball. Gary Sanchez, he still stinks. Okay. He's following up his horrendous 2020 so far with a sub 200 batting average. He still can't hit the breaking ball. He swings at everything that's outside of the strike zone. He's not a good defensive catcher at all still. Maybe his framing is a little better, but the pass ball thing is still a problem for me. Kyle Higashioka has taken his spot as the everyday catcher. That tells you all you need to know for a guy who's made 2 All-Star teams and finished top 23 in MVP voting in 2017. DJ LeMahieu has been sluggish as well, 2.50 ERA. He's not exactly machining, if we can use that word. We'll coin that term. And everyone's freaking out about Aaron Judge. Ryan, you were doing this today as well. We were texting about it. So long as he gets to play 7 games versus the Astros in the ALCS, or whoever's they're going to see in the ALCS, if that helps him get there, I'm going to be, you know what? Look, just let it happen, baby. Just let it happen. But they started porous. They've kind of turned around. They had that big series against the Indians. Right now, they're beating up the Birds, and this could turn around, but the start has been porous, to say the least, if I can be nice about it.
Yeah, I'm not going to come out here and say I wasn't ever worried, because I was on Saturday's show, I was on last week's show, and the panic button the meter was on. The meter was activated. It was red. It wasn't all the way bright red, but it was red.
It was an
So
orange color.
I was nervous on this team just because of the pitching. And the reason that I have more hope now is because Corey Kluber finally looked like an MLB starting pitcher yesterday. 6 2/3, 1 run, 5 Ks. He hadn't got out of the fourth inning, in any of his previous starts. So that was a huge one for him. We've seen Tyone put a few together. You mentioned Jordan Montgomery. He's a grinder. When he doesn't have his stuff, he still gives you it all. I'm not worried about him. We know what he is. He's not some ace. He's not anything crazy. Garrett Cole's been awesome as always. And Domingo Germán tonight, 7 shutout innings. I mean, you can't say enough about that as a guy who was optioned to start the year. So the rotation, it's going to be a question mark. We're going to be talking about it all year, I'm sure. So that is something on its own. But the bats were really, really weird to me because even in this kind of stretch, they couldn't hit. They got lucky in one of those games versus Cleveland. It was a Garrett Cole, Shane Bieber ace-off. They couldn't hit a few days ago. So I think the bats have been a question. You mentioned Gary Sanchez. He's in the 2 for 28 slump right now. Remember his 2 homers to start the year. People kind of lost their minds. Said he's back. I think it might be time to really look at Kyle Higashioka. It's not the full-time starter yet, but Aaron Boone has said he's earned more playing time, and rightfully so. 4 homers on the year and only 25 at-bats. That speaks for itself. So I do think when you look at this team, there's a lot of aspects you have to look at. Another thing is Aaron Judge left yesterday's game with soreness, as you mentioned in the 9th inning. He wasn't in the lineup today, probably won't tomorrow. Said he could be used in a big-time spot. My number one thing there is, as you said, I don't know. I won't go that far ALCS because they couldn't even get there last year. But
yeah,
if it takes him from getting off the IL this year, I'll take a few soreness games here and there. I can live with it at that point. But, yeah, when I look at the Yankees right now, yesterday I thought was their most complete win of the season. They had 12 hits, I think, their most in a win all season. Today they followed it up with a 6-run game so far. Very solid there. Shutout ball so far. So I like where they're treading. 3 out of 4 in Cleveland, as you mentioned. To get the Tigers coming up, if they get rolling here, I think the worry goes out the window. You can chalk it up as a slow start, and you can kind of focus on getting these innings pitched throughout the end of the year. The bullpen, I just want to mention really quickly, been rock solid. Number 1 bullpen ERA in the league. When you take out some Nick Nelson blowups and Lucas Luque, it's the best bullpen of all time. So I love what they've done there. Jonathan Loizaga has really stepped up. And, yeah, I think the team will be fine. I think we know it's been the same team for the last 4 or 5 years. They just weren't hitting to start this year. It was such a low rate. So I do think they will be able to figure it out and weather this storm